And welcome, everybody, to the 137th episode of the Fact Is podcast. We're your hosts, Nafe Moses.
And I am a very good bad boy, Ryan Mays.
Jesus. He had to throw that in there. And Stuart, you got a cam now.
I forgot.
You got to start introducing yourself. You're a host, my friend.
Yeah, he is a host.
Oh,
I
Lord.
thought that's what you said. I'm sorry, Stu. I didn't mean to.
So everybody, real quick, please make sure, as we want to say in the beginning of every episode, please make sure you all follow us on all of our socials. What you do there helps us tremendously with our growth. We are continuing to evolve every single day, making upgrades to the podcast, of course, getting Stuart a cam, new lighting, new ways to set up our cameras. It's just a little thing that we do every single time because we want to make it better for you all, and we're going to continue to evolve.
Just a little bit better every single time.
Every single time.
We got the, it's an actual studio now, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, the fact is
It's pretty awesome.
you're liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all that helps us do more and bring you a higher quality product. So we appreciate you.
We appreciate all of you.
Now, to Nafe with this week's sponsor.
Yeah. I wish. But no, I do want to real quick bring up a incredible small business here locally that I know. Of course, all graphics are designed and made here in the U.S. You get free shipping. Please make sure you go to Miller Graphics. You can do a bunch of different things. ATV wraps, boat wraps, camo sheets, cornhole wraps, rear window graphics, rocker panels, tailgate wraps, truck bed bands, all sorts of things. So just take a look at some of the products. It's incredibly made. Again, all locally sourced right here in the United States. So anything that's U.S. made, of course, is an incredible thing. So please make sure that you all subscribe, or not subscribe, geez. Please make sure you all, if you do end up liking this kind of product, please make sure you order from there and share it with your friends and family. Tell them all where to get it. So beautiful thing when it's all made here in America. So, all right. Beautiful way to start this episode,
on the
boys.
agenda this week, Nate?
Well, first, let's talk about this. Number one, big shout out to Stuart for the beautiful Black Rifle coffee. We got to talk about that because this is some delicious coffee.
Is that
so
also made
appreciate
here in
it.
America? Grown in America?
It is made. And actually, I don't know about grown. I don't know. I'll be honest. Stu, can you chime in there for me?
Uh-oh.
I don't believe it's grown in America. Can you grow coffee in America?
Do we have the conditions in the environment to do so? Good question.
What
I
are
don't
you
know.
eating, Ryan?
Something that is definitely not grown here in America.
I love you guys. Oh,
But
man.
what I will say is if we can grow grapes to make the finest wines, we can grow some damn coffee beans.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
You would think.
You'd think, but
I mean, Florida almost has the same climate as Colombia.
true.
And Colombia is like one of the biggest exporters of coffee.
Coffee beans, yeah. So
And cocaine.
cocaine. Gotta love your cocaine. So,
Pablo.
yeah. So, thank you, Stuart. Appreciate that. Keep us going through the
It's
episode for the night.
delicious.
It is delicious. It does taste great. And you know what? I'll be honest. So, at first, I was a hater because I'm not a big fan of black coffee, but it's kind of growing on me. I can kind of acquaint myself to the taste, so I appreciate it. But without further ado, let's go straight into today's episode and start talking about a summer of strikes. So work stoppages in the United States this year could reach heights rarely seen in recent decades. So let's take a look at this. So looking at 150,000 auto workers who are threatening to go on strike just this month. If they do this year, we'll have the most workers on strike since 2018, which refers back to the scroll back up there a little bit. The Red for Ed teachers, 379,200 in 2018, 266,200 in 2019 all went on strike. Each line shows the number of U.S. workers involved in the work stoppages by month over the course of a year. Strike activity started in plateau in early 2000s. So as you all can see, strikes just from all these different organizations going throughout the years. Railway workers back in, what years was that? Scroll up a little bit. 1990, 91, and 92. And then we just had the railroad strike again, last year? Where Biden had to try to come to agreements with the union. So that
They
just
were
happened
going to
recently.
strike, but
Or they
Yeah,
were
but
going
they
to
never
strike, but they
ended up.
actually struck up a deal.
Look at
That's right. Good call.
AT&T.
Yeah,
Okay.
AT&T 675,000 back in 1985. That's pretty wild. This year, workers across industries in the United States have increasingly walked off the job or threatened to do so. In July, tens of thousands of actors joined screenwriters on the picket line, bringing Hollywood to a halt. Meanwhile, and I'm honestly not opposed to Hollywood just shutting down in general, but that's just another discussion.
Major cinephile.
I know. And there are great movies, but it's, Hollywood's interesting. Meanwhile, a summertime strike
I would say Hollywood could shut down. I'd be okay with it.
Right. Of more than 300,000 United Parcel Service workers seemed imminent before a deal was reached last month. Now, another large-scale strike looms. The United Auto Workers Union has voted to authorize a walkout of about 15,000 members. General Motors. Oh, I'm sorry, 150. I missed a zero. At General Motors, Ford Motor, and Stellantis, if negotiations fail before contracts expire on September 14th. So, if auto workers go on strike, the number of workers who have walked off the job at some point over the course of this year will top 450,000, which is, again, the highest level since 2018.
You know what's crazy?
What's up?
It's a little over, 1% of the population of America? America's got, 370 million?
300, yeah, like 70 million now.
So, like, if 400,000 people walked out, it's like 1%.
And to think that's, 1% in retrospect isn't really a huge number, but realistically, it also is a big number, especially for this.
450,000 times 100, right? Yeah. That would be 450 million, right?
Yes. Which is a lot. Real quick, I do want to say so some comments on TikTok that just cracked me up right now. Black coffee is only for people who have a deep-seated need to punish themselves. I love that comment.
Dude, black coffee is no joke. If you drink black coffee first thing in the morning,
wakes you up.
Not just that. Things happen in the bathroom that we can't really discuss on here.
Caffeine helps you use the restroom. So politicians are now trying to let companies sue for lost revenues due to strikes. Union here won't stop for a non-union shop. So I'm assuming the individual that we're talking to here on TikTok is also part of a union, backs up unions, sees it from a different perspective maybe than us. Because I don't think any of us are in a unionized environment. I've worked in a unionized environment. I will say from my personal experience, it's interesting because you want as a leader, you want to be able to make sure you compensate those who have good work ethic versus those who don't. And it feels like the tides of unions have changed a little bit to protect the lazy worker. And that's just my thought. But
I don't know about
they used to, I will say they used to, from what I understand, used to be very useful. Of course, and they did protect workers overall in general. It's just hard because in a unionized environment.
What else that sounds like? U.S. government used
to be very good. Yeah. But again, that was just my personal experience with it, not saying everybody's. But anyways, so strike activity increased slightly in 2021 and 2022 after a lull during the pandemic. Much of this can be attributed to the historically strong economic recovery, which has strengthened workers' bargaining power, said Ruth Milkman. That's an interesting name. Professor at the City University.
It was the milkman's baby.
I mean, I'm sure she gets that joke all the time. A professor at the City University of New York's Graduate Center and School of Labor and Urban Studies, the single most important factor is the tight labor market. So despite the recent uptick, overall union activity has fallen since the 70s, 80s, when the number of workers on strike in a year regularly surpassed 400,000. So
didn't the union ended up like leading organized crime? Wasn't that like one of the big things with the union?
I don't know. That's a good question.
They gained so much power, they became like the mob.
Great question. So and see, I love it because we're having a nice little discourse with 11B here on TikTok because they say there are definitely union shops that use the buddy system. This doesn't last very long though, which I love. Because the unionized environment I worked in was for about 4.5 years, and again, I personally didn't see good things out of it. Now I met a lot of great people, a lot of people that fought for individuals within the building who were doing really, really good. And once their BS becomes public, they get outs, which is good. But yeah, yeah, like I said, I've worked in that environment and I've found some great people, but I've also had some rough experiences. So I don't know. It's just a little,
I worked in
tough,
a union
tough
environment,
thing.
and when we were on site in the union environment, it was same like work as usual, except for we weren't allowed to work like what we would normally work,
Right.
Because it was considered being overworked.
Yeah.
But we were on the road.
Interesting.
What else were we gonna do?
I mean, did they compensate you properly?
Yeah,
Then it's not something you can get too mad over, right? Like,
yeah, it is because
it?
I could have got way more overtime.
So you're saying like, yeah, you would have preferred the overtime,
Yeah,
compared to what was
Are you kidding
actually
me? I was on the road.
all right.
What else was I gonna do? Go back and sit in the hotel?
Yeah, true. Yeah, just kind of waste your time.
I mean, I could go explore, but it's like, man, a new city like every week.
Right.
What am I? I'm not going to explore in these cities
Yeah,
by myself.
I get that. And so, like this individual said, that was definitely a bad system. So, there's good and bad, like we've talked about. But and you try to look for the good in the system, because again, I know of individuals who talked about when unions were first established back in roughly like 70s, 80s, during that time, when they became really prevalent, and people loved unions. They really fought for individuals. They really stood up to corporations and abusing the people that were working for their company. So there was good in it, and some people have found how to exploit that to bad. But you got to look past that and continue to fight for the good.
I would just like for somebody to stand up to China.
Oh, interesting talks we'll have there here in a little bit.
Oh,
I don't know if it was passed, but I'm pretty sure it was passed. Maybe this person can tell us. But like they did a law, they passed a law or something where union busters,
Mhm.
like companies try to union bust, like immediately they have to recognize the union, and like the union has their side represented. Like you can't, it's harder to union bust now for companies to union bust.
What do you mean union bust? Like oust a union, essentially? Get rid of a union?
Yeah, like if we were in a company and I was going around and trying to form a union and get a union
Oh.
involved, like the company can do certain tactics to not allow you to do that.
Yes, there's only so much they can do by law. And
But what I'm saying is the law has been even more restricting now to companies.
yes, because so for example, I've read case studies and articles back when I was going for my degree way back when, and there would be companies that would threaten to move to and like put their buildings basically in other countries and say, well, if y'all are going to form a union, then we're out. But they weren't allowed to do that. Now, once the voting was over, if they lost if the union bid lost, then they were able to do whatever they wanted with their company. But you're not allowed to do that in the midst of trying to form a union shop in the industry. So yeah, that was that. I've read some interesting thoughts on there. But again, unions for the most part are supposed to be there to help people, and they generally do.
If anything, create a balance.
People.
Yeah, exactly. Do what now?
If anything, create a balance.
Create a balance. That's a good way of putting it as well.
You don't feel like there's balance in corporate America right now?
I'd say probably not.
Why not, Dave?
Oh, Lordy. Let's talk about lobbying and all sorts of things that we can get into.
I mean, you've got some coffee there. Let's get going, boy.
Talk for hours, boys.
The night's still young, gentlemen.
The night's still young. But yeah, so good
And the
data there.
podcast just started.
Good data there, talking about unions and strikes and what's going on around the country.
So, Dave, would you want to be a part of a union, or would you want to just work your life away at a corporation?
Realistically, there's not too much of a difference in my opinion, but I mean, because I mean, a union, you're still working for the corporation, but you just have a union of people to kind of help you in
Kinda
any
like
sort of
banding
situation.
together with
Yeah.
other people who are working their life away at the corporation,
Yeah,
and just
I mean-
saying, "Hey, we're not going to stand for that.
We'll stand for this instead. Yeah, kind of thing. I mean, I don't
We're
know.
not
It's-
going to accept hot dogs on the 4th of July. We want hamburgers."
It's I mean, I don't know. You consider here's where we start getting into deep
Water?
physiology or
Physiology, bro. We're not talking about the human
Goodness.
body here. Drink some more of that coffee.
Sorry, let me keep going.
Watch what that does to your
Philosophy, that's what I was thinking.
physiology.
Philosophy. So, I mean, realistically, it kind of depends on what you think about work your life away, right? Some people are perfectly happy working in that kind of environment and just doing the little things that makes them happy. But, I mean, you know, it just all depends.
You know, I saw something the other day. It was actually kind of funny. It was like, if you are worried about work-life balance, you are beep. It's like, if you have to balance your work with your life and there's a balance there, you are done, man.
Yeah.
You are done. Like, it needs to be life with some work sprinkled in.
You got to learn to appreciate life for what it
I was
is
like-
and appreciate the journey, man. That's all it comes down to, honestly.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, dude, think about what you do at work. You build somebody else's dream for them.
Yep.
Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
Did hurt.
I can see the tear well up in your eye. The single tear drop down your cheek.
I
'Cause,
mean,
unless you're working for yourself, that's what you're doing.
kind of. Because
No,
it
no,
depends.
No.
I would say essential workers.
No.
Essential workers provide things for
You're making the dream come true for somebody
people.
else.
Or you're making the dream
Unless
come
you're
true
working for the government, and then you're making everybody else's around the world's dreams and wishes come true, but not helping anybody here at home.
I see your perspective, but at the same time, I would argue some people find fulfillment in being able to, for example, let's just say you work for a company that distributes food, or they distribute a multitude of things.
Sure.
They appreciate being able to get those supplies out there for people, and they just find deeper meaning in that. They don't necessarily look towards, because I mean, when you think about it, it's starting your own business. It is a grind.
It is a grind, but you don't think that they would rather have their own food stand, supplying food to the people in their local communities and making money and being able to choose their own hours and having that work-life balance that they want to have?
Also, too, some people don't want to carry on that risk that comes with it. And like you guys said, the grind and the hours and the time put into it. Some people just want to do their 9 to 5 and go home and just not think about it.
That's what I was going to get to.
This is the reason I bring this up is because I just basically have set a trap. So is it because people really do find purpose in building other people's businesses for them? Or is it because they have been indoctrinated from the time that they were a little kid to get good grades, go to college, get a good job, work your life away, retire when you're 65?
There is that.
Because if you, as a kid, if I ask my kids right now, what do you want to do when you get older? They're going to say
astronaut.
No. They're not even going to say that. They're going to say, I want to play. I want to go. I want to jump off a mountain. Like, you know, they're gonna say they want to explore and see things with the world and everything. But then all of a sudden, this thing called money gets thrown in there.
Yep.
And because money, the reason I asked you about the union is because I'm tying it back in. If the unions and the school and the government, it all seems like they're kind of
right.
You know? So the indoctrination starts at a very young age. They teach you STEM to make sure that you're a functioning human with an IQ of at least 90. And then after that, you are prepared to go into the workforce. Now, what side of the workforce you want to go into is completely up to you. That is the freedom, quote unquote, of America. You get to choose the chains that you're in.
Right. So again, I think it kind of comes down to this: is ultimately, I believe people find peace in what they do for a living and find their autonomy outside of work in their own hobbies. Now, if they can turn that hobby into something, or even their families or whatever, you know, if they can turn it into a full-time living, of course they're going to give it a shot. But if they can't and they just enjoy that outside of what they do on their 9 to 5, I feel like people find that sort of fulfillment elsewhere. Does that make sense? But I see what you're saying.
I get it, but like how many people do you know that truly love their 9 to 5? Like truly love, like get up every single morning and are like, I cannot wait
to do this,
go to work today. Leave my family at home. They can deal with it. I've got this I've got to do. How many people you know that actually say that?
I'll be honest, not too many. But then again, there's only so much.
Out of what, 500,000?
There's only so much you can. I guess. There's only so many people that can be a small business and be successful at the same time as well. There's only so much room for, you know, because of these oversaturated markets and because of the innovation that takes place today, there's only so much for people to do, right? Like, not everybody, for example, what we're doing here, not everybody can be a podcaster, right? Not everybody can find themselves in the Joe Rogan status.
and not everybody's gonna want to.
Yeah, not everybody's going to want to. Everybody's going to have their own thing.
Everybody's going to have their own thing, which would make the market truly diverse.
Right.
Instead of having 5 companies own everything. Your BlackRocks, your Vanguards, your Blackstones, your those things. Instead of having 5 companies own everything, that they've gotten to just be these huge multinational, gargantuan companies that own trillions of dollars in assets, or billions, or hundreds of millions. And let's go down the list here. Instead of having that, you would have more diverse markets. You would have more diversity within the market. You'd have more competition. I'm not saying that people wouldn't band together, and lock arms with each other and build a company up. And I'm sure that you would still see a similar kind of structure, but without the shackles of the corporations. I mean, it's tough, because then you would need something in place like a union to make sure that the corporations don't overstep their power.
It is tough, and it's an interesting conversation, though.
Yeah,
so I do appreciate that, though,
because you're from a corporation type world, and I have now joined the corporate world. So I've got a different perspective, so
right,
I to
seeing
yours.
it completely different. Yeah, it's interesting, because, like I said, when you break it down, it kind of comes down to human psychology in general, anyways, and honestly, it comes down to the consumer. So if the people,
are you saying that the companies just stock homes all their employees? Like, you will do this. Well, we'll be nice to you on the 4th of July. You can have a hot dog. Hey, we're not so bad. Come over here. We'll pay you.
I think it comes down to the consumer as well. So, for example, if we captured the entire local market, sure, we would be like the local news source through here, right?
Dope.
Be awesome. Be incredible. But it requires the consumers to understand how what they're spending their time and value and money on is affecting the world overall.
So
education.
You're going back to the education piece, the indoctrination piece.
Yeah, back into high school and how crappy that was.
Not even high school. I'd say back to elementary.
True.
So basically, all of our problems could be fixed if we got rid of the U.S. government and changed our education system, learning environment instead of an indoctrination environment. What you're saying?
Yes. Cool.
And on to the next one.
So anyways, most of the strike activity this year has been among workers at private companies. This is different from 2018 to 2019, which saw an unusual uptick in walkouts in the public sector when public school teachers organized the Red for Ed education strikes that demands raise and increase school funding, which, I mean, teachers do deserve a lot more money. Especially nowadays. Those are not
it's
just
an impossible job.
Yeah, it really is. Those are not just the strikes that are in the news, but there are many smaller strikes across every industry. And that is correct, says Kate Bronfenbrenner, a senior lecturer at Cornell University's School of Industrial and Labor Relations.
Wonder if she knows Andy.
Some, like Dr. Bronfenbrenner, see the resurgence of strikes and union organizing as a lasting trend. Surveys have shown increased public support for unions in recent years. She said, even as a private sector, union membership remains low. About 67% of Americans say they approve of the labor unions. Interesting. And that was compared to just 19% in 2018. So when you have large strikes that are like waves across the country, they're contagious. That's what she says also.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on the labor unions? I know we kind of got off topic a little bit, but it all ties together. That's the crazy part.
That wasn't like it was an off-topic conversation.
It all ties together, and that's where it gets hard because, again, with politics comes psychology. It comes philosophy.
It's the macro, right?
Yeah.
Like you have... Whenever you talk about politics, you have to look at things from a 30,000-foot perspective, and then you have to look at things from a 5-foot perspective. I mean, it really, truthfully, is that diverse whenever it's a political discussion or talk. Just because that's how humans are. We have problems at 30,000 feet, and we have problems at 5 feet, and we have problems at sea level. So there's never gonna be a utopia where there's not problems.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's always important for citizens, to stand up for themselves at work and, within reason, demand what they think they deserve. And, just are y'all familiar with UPS and the strike they had and what they just got? They got a pretty good pay raise.
Oh yeah, they got pretty phenomenal pay raise.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is you know what? Know your value as well as a human
absolutely.
being. Like if you are at a place where you feel like they're not respecting your value as a human, well, leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Ultimately.
There's another company out there that does a very similar thing to what your company does. Go work for them.
And also,
go work for a competitor.
Also, too, Nath, you remember when we talked about the railroad strikes?
Right.
And some of these employees, they just wanted a day off. It's
Something as simple as that.
Yeah. So I know, like, over the past year, we've seen some strikes with like Starbucks, and the railroad people tried to strike, and UPS. They wanted air conditioning in their vans and things like that. So
Man, that's a tough one to ask for.
it's sometimes when you look at these things, really the workers aren't asking for that much. And so my worldview, my perspective is, I think it's good when corporations take care of their people,
Absolutely.
and then their people feel like they're taken care of, because then in return that only benefits their company.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I will say, the biggest cost to companies comes the training costs and hiring new people.
Oh,
If you retain people and you're able to teach them what their job is, and they're able to do it successfully, and actually give them substantial raises every year. That's the other problem. Most people don't understand, when you jump from job to job, you're making 15 to 20% raises every time you go to that new career, because you're negotiating for that higher price.
Oh, yeah.
And you're taking your talents elsewhere. Whereas most companies might give you 2-3% raise if you're lucky, and they don't even account for the adjustment to cost of living, like is when we've seen what we just see back in 2020, 2021, like 20% inflation, right, across like every
industry. That high,
was it not?
It's like 7 or 8%.
Yeah, at the peak it was like 8%.
Oh, I thought it was way worse than that. Some things got really far up there.
I think the core inflation percentage, KIP or KPI or whatever, I think that like got up to like 14% if you included gas and
everything.
Yeah, it was everything.
But it wasn't 20.
I don't think it ever got 20.
Well, either way.
And your normal everyday goods was like 8%.
Yeah. Now, even then, and you're not adjusting for those kind of cost of good increases. I mean, that hurts people bad.
The government actually, like if you were a government employee, they did adjust for that. So that was something that if you were a government employee, then you did. I think it was like a 5 or a 6% raise over those years just to adjust for inflation.
Which,
but still, if you look at it, 5 or 6% was still 2% lower than what the inflation rate was.
Right.
So it is still just trying to keep you, down. But what you said about jumping from job to job, no
loyalty anymore, because why would you?
Why companies aren't loyal to you? Why would you be loyal to them? But I was reading an article that it's actually not suggested that you stay in a job more than 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
Because at that point, the company will start to exploit you.
Yep.
Well, think about all these people that live in these rural areas, and there's only, maybe one big manufacturing plant.
Yep.
And they don't have the market to just leave. I mean, unless they want to move away from, where they grew up.
They don't
have that luxury of, going job to job.
And then comes human nature, where it's hard to move away from your family, your friends, and you want to be around, the social aspect. Yeah. So again, human nature and the difficulties of life, and it's unfortunately all gray. It's not just black and white, but that's the beauty of life at the same time. So again, enjoy
that's
the
what
ride.
we were talking about beforehand, man. It'd be nice to not have the knowledge that we do, and just know that there is better out there. You just got to go get it. Because it would be sometimes I think it'd be really nice to just have a little shack on a hill and 4 acres or something that I own and not have a care in the world except for watching that sun make its way down the mountain.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It'd be a beautiful life. A lot of things are.
I mean, that would be cool. But at the same time, then I'm kind of also like, but I want a yacht.
Where I can land my helicopter, of course.
Yeah, like helicopters, yachts. Like, I also would love to get a decommissioned Raptor.
And here comes corporate Ryan.
And so, strap them up. Call them the bootstraps, baby. Yeah.
I love it. All right, cool. Any last thoughts on the unions?
If you're a worker, stand up for yourself.
100%.
Like Ryan said, know your value.
Yeah, I echo everything that Stu said because he echoed everything that I said. And then I don't know what you're doing.
It's a big old triangle.
I am you.
I love it. I'm Groot.
Groot.
Let's move forward. So, as we were just talking about,
Groot.
China objects as U.S. approves military aid to Taiwan under program aimed at sovereign nations. So,
Nice.
maybe we are stepping up to China a little bit.
Hey, you know what? Let's just start a world war. That'd be cool.
This one, unfortunately, would probably end in a lot of.
I don't think it would come down to the nuclear option. I think it would just be a sustained, really long war.
Interesting.
You know why?
With like robots.
Because Russia's military-industrial complex, China's military-industrial complex, and our military-industrial complex would just get fat rich. Like super fat rich.
Super fat
on
rich.
a prolonged world war.
And maybe that's what they're trying to do in the first place.
Sounds like it. Looks like it. Like, because they don't want to go like fist to cuffs with anybody. Russia's not like spitting on us and saying, "Come on, America, let's go." Like, total war, baby. Like, forget the war crimes. Let's go. Because that's real war.
I mean, the U.S., so the Biden administration has approved for the first ever U.S. military transfer to Taiwan under a program generally reserved for assistance to sovereign independent states. So that is, I mean, we're kind of revving up for it here is what it looks like.
Yeah, but it's a modest package, only $80 million.
Oh, 80, you know.
Yeah, but that's like okay, in perspective, that's like not even an F-22 Raptor.
Right. And oh, wow, that's wild to think about. The State Department notified Congress on the sale on Wednesday. It said the material would be best to strengthen Taiwan's self-defense capability through joint and combined defense capability.
We just sent them a pallet of M16s. Good luck, buddies.
And enhance maritime domain awareness and maritime security capability. So a security capability. The package is modest, only $80 million of what Congress had set aside as potential $2 billion. But the implications of using the so-called foreign military financing program to provide it infuriated China. So Beijing, which regards Taiwan as renegade province, has repeatedly refused to rule out any force to reunite it with the mainland and I quit. I can't even say that word. Vociferously protest all U.S. arms sales to the governing island. Yeah, that was a struggle bus right there for me. China's foreign ministry immediately lashed out to the move, calling it a violation of U.S. commitment under its One China policy and a number of subsequent agreements in which Washington pledged not to support Taiwanese independence. So previous arms sales to Taiwan have been approved under the other authorities that do not necessarily imply statehood. U.S. officials were quick to say the provisions of FMF funding to Taiwan did not represent a change in policy. So, the only other time the U.S. has provided a non-nation state with military assistance under FMF was the African Union, an organization of sovereign states based in Ethiopia, according to American officials. The notification, a copy of which was obtained by the Associated Press, did not specify what military equipment or systems would be paid for under FMF, which commits U.S. taxpayer dollars to pay for the supply of material for foreign countries. But it said items that could be covered would include air and coastal defense systems, armored vehicles, infantry fighting vehicles, drones, ballistic missile and cyber defense, and advanced communications equipment. It added to the protective gear an array of small, medium, and heavy weapons systems, ammunition, armored and infantry fighting vehicles, could also be included. In addition to the equipment, FMF may also be used to support training for Taiwanese military forces. The move drew strong bipartisan support from the U.S. lawmakers in both the House and Senate. In the face of increasingly aggressive People's Republic of China military actions in Taiwan, the United States must move quickly to provide support to Taiwan's defense. So, Representative Michael McCall, a Texas Republican who chairs the House Foreign Affairs Committee, also welcomed the FMF being provided to Taiwan. These weapons will not only help Taiwan and protect other democracies in the region, but also strengthen the U.S. deterrence posture and ensure our national security from an increasingly aggressive CCP. In support of this, are you, Stuart? Question mark.
Absolutely not.
No. You're not in support of backing up Taiwan.
No, I'm not in support of sending money to Ukraine either.
Interesting.
Got to stay consistent, brother.
Yeah, that is interesting.
The difference, though, is that Taiwan is actually an ally.
They are. Are they part of NATO?
No, they're not part of NATO, but they are an ally.
They are an ally, whereas Ukraine, not necessarily.
Is just,
Ukraine.
It's just doing favors for the Bidens.
That is getting pretty interesting.
I said it.
Which we have an interesting article after this one, but we'll dive into that in a minute. I don't know, because
I've got psychic powers or something.
Here's the thing, I also like to stay consistent, but I mean, I agreed to helping Ukraine. I just didn't think that we should have helped as much as we did. Whereas I'm also going to agree that helping Taiwan is fine with me. And again, 80 million isn't really scratching too much.
Like I said, we sent him a pallet of M16s.
Yeah, like that's not too bad. So that I'm okay with.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick. You agree to us helping Ukraine?
Just not as much as we have been. Not the amount of money that we've continued to spend.
Even though it's our fault that Ukraine is in the situation that they're in.
Is it though? Putin didn't have to invade.
No, but what would we do if Russia, just set up shop in Cuba?
I don't think we'd do anything, would we? We already don't help Cuba. They just went under.
Okay, so what if Russia just, set up shop in Mexico?
Now that's different.
Or in Canada?
They would. Well, they'd. Canada, I don't think would do it, but if Mexico did it, I feel like the U.S. would definitely try to intervene there.
It's time for devastation.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the U.S. would be mad about that.
Do you think we would invade Mexico?
No.
You don't think we would invade Mexico if Russia had set up shop?
I wouldn't think. Do you?
I think some people would die.
And
I don't think we'd be like pussyfooting around about it.
That's a good point.
Here's my
I'd give
take.
you that.
What do you think, Stu?
The Ukraine war didn't start in 2022. It started all the way back in 2014.
Yep. I don't disagree.
Thanks, Obama.
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I think it did start in 2014, but at the same time,
that's when Crimea, right?
Yes,
14?
annexing Crimea. But at the same time, Putin still didn't have to invade. He didn't have to. He chose to, regardless, right? Like it was his decision.
Didn't have to deny Russia entry into NATO.
True.
In 2001.
So whose fault was that? NATO.
Well, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't we want Russia part
Putin
of our...
had warned that NATO knocking on his doorstep was a red line and that he was going to invade, but we kept pushing the envelope.
Stu, keep talking dirty.
So
you're not wrong.
Keep talking dirty.
This is what I'm saying. America intervenes in a lot of things, and we stir the pot, and it just keeps rolling and rolling. And then these other countries react, and then it's like, oh, this country's bad.
We get to spend money.
No, I mean, I 100% agree. You know, the U.S. does not have their hands clean. Let's be honest, right? Like,
no, you know what the U.S. is? The U.S. is the older kid on the playground that shouldn't be on the playground.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, Jimmy, Tommy over there said you're stupid. Yeah. And then, no, hey, Tommy, you know Jimmy said that your mom wears army boots? And then Jimmy and Tommy fight, and then we step in and we're like, punch you in the face, punch you in the face.
You know what's funny too is a couple years ago, there's this big push from like the Islamic State in the Middle East.
Right.
That was the threat. Well, where's that talk today? You don't hear anything about that anymore.
We gave him $85 billion worth of military equipment.
Yeah.
That's what happened to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say we pulled out and didn't even.
Biden pulled out faster for my Afghanistan than Trump did Stormy Daniels.
But my point is, they were this big threat, and now Russia's the threat, and China is the threat.
Stu was able to keep a really
I
straight
don't know
face
how
on
you
that one.
I haven't done my job yet.
U.S. instigates it. They start these issues, and then they spend the money. I'm not going to disagree with that. But
it's all an instigation to feed the complex.
And I'm not trying to defend Russia and China and all these countries. I hate to defend all these countries, but it's like, if a country, we do all these things.
At what point do we become the bad guy?
We make NATO bigger. We send weapons to this person and that person. And then like China and Russia and North Korea, they start doing business with each other, and then we like freak out.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you expect them to do?
Yeah, I mean, because you got to look at it from these other countries' perspectives, right? We are bound, as you continue to push the buttons, they are bound to react. You can't just punch somebody and not expect a reaction, except when you're Chris Rock and you get slapped in the face by Will Smith. But
there's that. Keep my wife's name.
Here we bring up Trump for the first time on this episode.
Oh, here we go.
I already brought it up. Stormy Daniels, you missed my comment.
That's right. All right, seriously, bringing up Trump. Was the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, was he sending missiles in the air when Trump went over there and met with him?
Nope.
No.
So, I mean, there is a way to go about these things. It's not we don't have to support everything these countries do, but we can keep the peace.
Well, it's like the Monroe Doctrine said, walk softly, or was this Teddy Roosevelt? Walk softly and carry a big stick.
I think it was Teddy.
But I think it was the Monroe Doctrine that basically said, hey, the Americas are off limits.
Yeah, right.
And then, Nafe, we've seen things with Boris Johnson. We've read articles of Boris Johnson wanting breaking up peace negotiations with Ukraine and Russia.
Yep. The UK
the
Prime
2014 coup. I can't even remember her name, but the phone call, the conversation. If nobody's familiar with like Ukraine, USA, and Russia and all this, go back to just Google 2014 Ukraine Revolution and just read up on everything that happened back then. This was a build-up since 2014.
And now Taiwan, of course, is getting caught in the crossfire as well between the U.S. and China.
All wars are a build-up.
It starts somewhere.
Like, it has to start, and it like, not to quote.
Correct, but I don't think like the American citizens.
No, the American citizens don't pay attention. I mean, we all have our head in the sand. But
they just think Putin just woke up one day and wanted to go into
that
Ukraine.
Ukraine place, that looks like that would be good under my pocket.
That's the unfortunate thing is the American people don't realize it was a buildup. We are not saints. We are the instigators, and we're the ones who are creating this situation in the first place. And it's hard to swallow your pride and say that as an American citizen who wants to be the best country in the world.
And also, too, wanted to be on the record that I do not support Putin invading another country.
No, none of us do, but we understand why he got pushed to that point. Like, it's understandable.
We understand the
but
context.
It's frustrating.
It's kind of like the people who are like, support Ukraine, support Ukraine, support Ukraine, are like paraphrasing the war itself,
right?
Where there's all this other context that goes around that gotten us to this point.
And unfortunately, most people just don't see that. So I do have 2 comments here from Copperhead on TikTok saying Russia's missiles in Cuba, U.S. would not be happy about that. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And then it's a chess game. U.S. has chess pieces on the Russian side of the board. So
I don't know. After seeing what Russia's missiles can do in Ukraine, I don't know that we'd be too upset about their missiles in Cuba.
I'm just tired of America intervening in all these countries and messing with all these countries, and then the establishment media, corporate media, whatever you want to call them, they'll just push the narrative. Well, first they'll make the leader of that country look like a bad guy, which maybe they are a bad guy, but they push that narrative, and another narrative that they push is that country hates us because we're free. And I'm starting to think maybe
that's true.
Maybe they don't hate us because we're free. Maybe they hate us because we intervene in every little thing across the seas.
I was going to say maybe they hate us because we're a-holes.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to 2001, right? We invade entire countries because of what a small group did. We didn't even give those countries an opportunity to oust the terrorist organizations who did it. We just said, hey, you all did this to us, so we're going to invade these countries. Oh, and you have weapons of mass destruction?
W.
Well, we're going to come in there and make sure you don't have those. Oh, wait, they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. Oops, we didn't even say sorry for that. We didn't care about the...
Remember, they were talking about chemical weapons.
Yeah.
They were talking about, like, nukes. They were talking about all kinds of stuff.
And if I'm not mistaken...
And what happened to the people that spoke out against that Iraq war? They were shamed.
Yeah.
People were doing the exact same thing.
Exactly.
If you speak out against
It was worse, though, back then because of 9/11 had just happened.
If you speak out against the Russia and Ukraine situation, they'll say, you're a Putin puppet and, etc.
Well, our episode tonight's probably going to get banned.
Probably.
So we might as well just go off the rails.
Because it's wild to...
You have to have a full picture. You can't just have... this half-painted picture.
But it's so hard to have a full picture when literally everything you consume is trying to paint that one picture.
Yeah, so
it's hard.
Another thing I'll say, too, is if you go and read about what happened in 2014 and leading up to now, if you're familiar with all those things that have happened in the past and you still support aid to Ukraine, that's fine. Just make sure you are familiar with that information.
Well, the thing is the aid that we're sending isn't even going to the Ukrainian citizens. It's going to the Ukrainian government. It's paying government wages. It's paying, it's paying for this corrupt government to continue to be able to function. And then we're also sending a ton of weaponry over.
Yep.
So it's like, that $300 billion could have probably helped the people in Hawaii a lot more.
And I can't remember exactly what who I was listening to. I think it was Mike Baker, who was talking about the amount of contractors that are ready to just run over to Ukraine and start helping build that infrastructure. And the amount of money we're going to end up giving over towards the infrastructure towards
Dick
Ukraine
Cheney's
after it's all over.
Well, it's like
do what now?
What's Dick Cheney's company?
I can look it up real quick.
What was that company called?
I'll look it up.
I had something really terrible I was getting ready to say, but I held my tongue, guys. I'm getting better about this.
But Halberton Company.
Yeah.
Yeah, because from 1995 to 2000 has received stock options from Halberton in the run-up to the Iraq War. Was awarded a $7 billion contract.
Who?
The Halberton.
No. Who had the stock options?
Cheney was chairman and CEO of that company and received stock options.
It's Halliburton.
Halliburton. Is that how you say
Halliburton.
it? Halliburton. Yeah. So they got awarded a $7 billion contract for which only Halliburton was allowed to bid, and that allowed them to go back over and help rebuild Ukraine or Iraq. So there's that.
Do you think that's why Dick Cheney shot that guy in the woods while they were hunting?
Wow. Oh, by the way, if anybody hadn't heard recently, this is kind of interesting. I know it's way off topic, but y'all have got to hear about this. Obama's chef was found if I'm not mistaken, like
Dead?
within a couple of miles in a pond, right?
I think it was in the ocean, wasn't
Or
it?
in the ocean? Was it ocean? It was in a body of water. His chef was found within a body of water not too long ago. So that was interesting to hear
Why the
about.
chef?
I don't know. Thoughts? That's an interesting thing to just read up on. And you know, everybody's like, oh, it's a conspiracy. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. Why would he be found dead?
But
in
it isn't back,
ocean?
back
I think
to
it's weirder that 48 people that have been associated with the Clintons have suicided themselves.
Interesting.
what I was going to say is back to the Dick Cheney and Halliburton. Isn't it interesting that our vice president was the chairman of that company, and here we go and start this war with Iraq,
And a $7 billion contract gets awarded to them.
and yeah,
Wow.
they get to
in them W days.
we tear through their country. Well, now it's time to rebuild Iraq, and look who has the contract. That's just the way these
And
things
only
work. it
they
seems
were
like.
allowed to bid on it.
Now, wait, you're saying Kamala Harris was on the board? You saying current vice president, or you're saying
No.
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Oh, back then. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Chains of dicks.
I'm down, Nave.
Sorry, I was like, wow, this is getting even deeper than I imagined. So Copperhead also came in, and I'm sorry, but this is too good not to say. He said food must not be too good. So that was for the Obama chef. That's pretty
Bravo,
nice.
Copperhead.
That's a pretty good
Bravo.
one. So anyways, that's where we are with Taiwan, China, US. It's going to be a big old triangle, and we are going to see what ends up happening there.
Just to wrap the Taiwan thing up, my view would be that because of what we have done since 2014 in Ukraine, I think it just has stirred this pot. So now, China's talking about intervening in Taiwan, and I know, Ryan, you said that they were an ally, and I think we should protect our allies. But like I said, we need the
Full
big picture, and I just don't buy a narrative that China just woke up. Yeah, let's take Taiwan.
I think it has something to do with
there's
the
got to be
conductors.
there's got to be a deeper story to what's
I think
going
it's the
on.
semiconductors.
I was gonna say I
Chip.
think it has to do with the semiconductors and they want to have basically a monopoly of it.
Well, all of China's growth has been pretty much technology.
Yeah,
And
because the U.S.
so-
buys everything.
Yeah, technology and manufacturing, I believe.
But
or,
also
like,
too,
textiles.
when you think about it, why would China why would China want to hurt us? Because we're such a big consumer for them. Like, we do a lot of business with China. Like, it's almost like our economy needs their economy and vice versa.
Right. I guess
Why do people sell drugs?
knowing that the individual who buys it is literally the product themselves, essentially. I mean, you're destroying your only buyers. you're killing your consumers. That is a good question. I've never understood that. But anyways, that's
But I mean, I feel like it's the same thing. If it's kind of like you have China and America, which seem to be kind of codependent on each other.
they
And
are.
Then you have this system that just doesn't. I don't know. For some reason, it doesn't mesh. And the thing about it is, I think it comes all back to human greed and human need to be, we're the best.
Psychology.
We're the best. And I don't mind to be 1A or 1B,
Right.
but I mean, yeah, I want to be the best, but I don't want to be the best at the expense of other people. I want to be
Right.
the best because we out innovated,
Because
or
we
we
have
beat
value.
them, or we did something better than they did.
All right, so we're gonna get there because we have 3 more topics we got to touch up on. The last
It's
one
already
is
9 o'clock.
Yeah,
Let's
I know.
roll, bro.
The last one is gonna be my favorite. So
Man, we're having a great discussion, but tell me I got to STF you sometimes.
Zelensky. So moving on to the next one, going right into the Ukraine war, which we're discussing as well. Zelensky outs his defense chief as ministry grapples with corruption claims.
Nice.
Interesting.
Corruption in Ukraine
Yeah.
and other
I
news.
would have never seen
Water
that.
is wet.
But it's We'll have a discussion. Ukraine's defense minister resigned Monday, hours after President Zelensky announced plans to replace him. The move came amid a widening graph probe as Kyiv looks to signal to Western partners who provide enormous amounts of defense aid that it has zero tolerance for corruption. Rezganovsk removal comes after months of speculation that he would be ousted. Although Reznikov has not been charged personally in ongoing corruption investigations, and Zelensky did not cite malfeasance in his announcement. Several high-profile allegations of graft have plagued the defense ministry. I believe the ministry needs new approach and other formats of interaction with both military and society as a whole, Zelensky said. My resignation is not related to any corruption scandals. The decision was made by the president for other reasons, Rezganov adding that he had completed the task assigned to him. The key directions of reforms have been set, and the process of receiving new weapons in Ukraine have become stable. Of course, for NATO membership is approved. On Saturday, Ukraine's State Secretary's Service accused billionaire Thor Kolomoisky of fraud. Fraud and money laundering. Kolomoisky previously owned Ukraine's largest savings and loan bank. Oh my goodness, Privat Bank, which was nationalized in 2016 to prevent its insolvency after $5.5 billion in assets went missing. Kolomoisky also served as governor of the country's Dnipropetrovsk region and strongly backed Zelensky in the 2019 bid for the presidency. I'm already bad with words, man. They're just making it hard.
Or it's Eeyore.
Is it? I swear it said Thor.
No, it's IHOR.
Oh, I thought I said T.
Oh my gosh, Nafe.
Oh, I totally thought that was a T. Eeyore. So let's see what else. We have also diversified food supplies in the Ministry of Defense. He continued, when I was appointed minister, there was only one supplier. Thanks to our efforts, we now have 5. We have created an independent public body, the Anti-Corruption Council, under the Ministry of Defense, which includes well-known volunteers and journalists. We persistently implemented the standards of friendly and NATO countries and used the experiences of the USA, Britain, and NATO. In addition to fighting corruption, Kyiv is also under new pressure to produce results in its counteroffensive, which Reznikov acknowledged in an interview with the Post in the spring might not live up to Western expectations and could cause emotional disappointment. In his resignation letter Monday, Reznikov claimed success in rearming the Ukrainian military. When he started in the job, he wrote partners refused to even provide Ukraine with portable air defense systems known as Stingers in the time since he said an aviation coalition was formed. Ukraine obtained modern tanks, anti-missile defense, anti-missile equipment, anti-aircraft missiles, armored vehicles, artillery, MLRS, and other types of modern Western-style weapons. The key tasks that were defined was I was appointed to the position were completed. So, Daria Kalinuk, executive director of the Anti-Corruption Action Center, a Ukrainian NGO, said in a Facebook post that Umarov has a solid strategic vision and is a talented negotiator. Umarov and his family are Crimean Tatars, a predominantly Muslim minority group from the peninsula of Russia invaded and illegally annexed in 2014. While serving in parliament, he co-chaired an initiative focused on retaking Crimea from Russian control. He was also involved in key negotiations related to releasing Ukrainian prisoners of war, said a government official who spoke to the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the subject. The resignation of Reznikov is a good sign, she said. It's a sign that public pressure in Ukraine works despite the large-scale invasion. Tamilia Tashvia, the president's representative to Crimea, who is currently in Kyiv, said Umarov has worked on releasing prisoners of war and has been a key figure in Ukraine's relations with the Gulf and Turkey. The decision to appoint Crimean Tatar to the role is an important signal for Ukrainian society and all our citizens in Crimea that Ukraine will fight for Crimea until it is freed from Russian occupation. So that's basically about it. So they now have a new chief, defense chief. This individual who was there, I guess, was corrupt. What happens if they find this corruption tied in with the Biden family? That would be interesting.
Nothing.
We'll see.
No, I mean they've already proven that there's been some level of corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, Hunter's not even qualified to work at a McDonald's, and he's on the energy board of Burisma. Like,
yeah. Now I do like the new individual that they put in there who has been fighting for Ukraine even back in 2014, like we were just talking about. So Umarov seems like an individual who might actually be able to step in there and be able to potentially change things. I mean, for somebody who's been fighting for the country even back before this war actually started, you know, I feel like that's a step in the right direction. What do you all think?
Yes.
Stu, any thoughts?
Ask your question again.
So the individual that they're putting into the new minister position, Umarov, a little bit of the background. His family are Crimean Tatars, and they're predominantly Muslim minority group from the peninsula Russia invaded and illegally annexed in 2014. While serving in parliament, he co-chaired an initiative focused on retaking Crimea from Russian control. So this individual that they're now putting into this new ministry position has been fighting for Ukraine and trying to get it back from Russia ever since 2014. That, to me, seems like a step in the right direction because you have somebody who acknowledged that basically what we were talking about earlier, this all started in 2014, and he's been fighting it ever since. So do you think it's a good move that they put this individual into that position or moving him into a higher position? What are your thoughts on that?
To be honest, I don't know much about him, so I don't know.
Right. Just like a 30,000-foot view from what I'm seeing, from what we just read. It seems like a good move. Yeah, a patriot.
Yeah, a patriot in a place of government is a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
Usually.
Well, hopefully he talks about peace.
Usually.
Maybe coming to an agreement with this war.
They don't want peace.
You know what? I agree with Stu, though, because it's crazy because at the same time, we were just talking about how Boris Johnson was shutting down any of these peace negotiations. I hope he is able to do that.
Well, that's the thing is like dude, this has become the world's like casino almost. Like they're placing bets, you know what I mean? Are playing games inside the country. Oh, who can fund this? Who can give this?
Yeah.
Who can spend this money here? Who can spend that money there? Like,
do y'all remember when Rand Paul pushed for legislation to audit the money going to Ukraine? And so many people voted against it.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Audit that?
Audits?
What? Audits? Practice?
Bro.
We're talking about practice?
We're not even talking about the game. We're talking about practice.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think that just because somebody wanted to make sure the line of accountability for that money and just seeing where it flowed, having transparency.
I believe that's probably where
got shot down.
I think that's where our government has gotten off the rails the most.
The most. Transparency and accountability.
I don't even know transparency because I do realize that there are some things that happen in this world that I don't want to see.
And there are things out there that we don't need to know about. I agree with that.
I don't want to know about.
I agree with that.
I don't even necessarily care about the transparency side of it, but the accountability side of it. And I take that back. I do care about the transparency side.
To an
there has
extent.
to be some level of transparency.
Yes.
Tell us the freaking aliens are here. Come on. But like, yeah. Like the accountability side has got to be high. And that's maybe what this guy will bring to the Ukrainian government is accountability.
Let's hope.
Somebody who's seen the atrocities that this guy has probably seen
since the beginning
and has been through and fought against. I'm sure that those people don't typically play around.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. So we'll see what happens. Any closing thoughts on the obvious Obvious corruption in Ukraine. Sorry, I had to say that just because of the whole Joe Biden thing.
That oh god no that's buddy.
I hope soon that whether it's the USA, Ukraine, or some country in NATO, they start pushing for peace and an agreement and coming to the table and sitting down instead of people dying. I mean, people don't have to die. Let's work this out like human beings, because
Yeah.
every life should be valued at this point.
That's the sad part.
That's what you would think, but if you look back throughout the course of human history,
Oh gosh, history.
human life has never been like
Precious.
the top priority.
Yeah, nobody cares about human life. We'll always make more babies, right?
I mean,
People
Spartans used
continue to
throw their
procreate,
own-
and
Yeah, Spartans used to throw their own children off the cliff if they had deformities. So
yeah. So
So I know one of our previous episodes, we talked about the Iraq and Afghanistan war and just how that went on, for 2 decades, and now it's like, what do we have to show for it? So I still ask that question: is this just another war that we're throwing money at? It's just going to keep escalating and escalating slowly until, we're in full-fledged war,
right.
and we, do we end up sending a heavy dose of troops overseas? We just, like I said, had 2 decades of U.S. troops dying, people in Iraq dying, Afghanistan, all over the Middle East. Is this going to be a huge escalation to another bloodbath? So that's why I advocate for the leaders of this world. Please, sit down and come to some kind of agreement in peace talks.
We need ethics to start taking over.
I still think that we should put the leaders of the country in
Mhm.
in the octagon. Let 'em
Fight it out, boys.
Let them fight. One of them's unconscious and not breathing.
Yeah, fight it out, because I'm tired of sacrificing people's lives for
thing is,
your agendas.
Well, that's just it. Like, what if it was all based on a hand-to-hand combat, not to the death,
Right.
but like well, I mean, I'd almost have to be the death, because like just because you got beat in the fight doesn't mean you're gonna hold to the handshake, what I mean?
Right.
So maybe it would have to be to death, but like, yeah, I bet you that would deter a lot of this going to war stuff.
Oh yeah, I bet it would. So
Like, oh, you're fighting to the death, and then we send in, who would we send?
not Biden.
Bigfoot.
Chuck Norris.
Bigfoot.
We're not trying to win a hide and go seek competition.
Yeah.
We're trying to win a fight.
Yeah.
I think we'd send John Jones. That would be our U.S. delegate.
Yeah. Yeah,
John,
that would
go
be
kill
interesting.
somebody.
Get out there, bud.
Don't hold back.
But yeah, so Ukraine getting a new minister there, hopefully again, a true patriot who will fight for that country and try to find peace. And that's what we all hope for in the end. Any other thoughts, closing thoughts on that one, boys?
No, I don't think so.
Cool.
Stop sending money to Ukraine. Start sending money to Hawaii.
Woo!
That's my final thought.
Moving forward. Good thoughts. Why North Korea's Kim Jong-un may meet with Putin in Russia. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un may soon meet with President Vladimir Putin and discuss potential arms deals, a U.S. national security official has said, signaling deeper ties between the two countries as they face off with Washington. As Russia's isolation over its war in Ukraine has grown, analysts say it has seen increasing value in North Korea. For North Korea's part, relations with Russia haven't always been as warm as they were during the height of the Soviet Union, but now the country is reaping clear benefits from Moscow's need for friends. So how deep are these political ties? Communist North Korea was formed in the early days of the Cold War with the backing of the Soviet Union. North Korea later battled the South and its U.S. And United Nations allies in a stalemate in 1950 to 1953 Korean War with an extensive aid from China to the Soviet Union. North Korea was heavily reliant on Soviet aid for decades, and the collapse of the Soviet Union in the 1990s contributed to deadly famine in the north. Pyongyang's leaders have often tried using Beijing and Moscow to balance each other. Kim initially had had a relatively cool relationship with Russia and China, which both joined the United States in imposing strict sanctions on North Korea over its nuclear tests. After his country's most recent nuclear test in 2017, Kim took steps to repair ties. He met Putin in 2019 for the first time in the Russian city of Vladivostok. In a message for Russia's National Day in June, Kim vowed to hold hands with Putin and bolster strategic cooperation. Russia has joined China in opposing new sanctions on North Korea, blocking a U.S.-led push and publicly splitting the UN Security Council for the first time since it started pushing Pyongyang in 2006. The most striking sign of deepening ties came in July when Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu visited Pyongyang and toured a weapons exhibit that included the North's banned ballistic missiles. He later stood beside Kim and saluted those missiles as they rolled by during a military parade. Oh, words. So,
words.
How has the Ukraine war affected the relationship? So North Korea has reciprocated its public support for Russia, which is not good after the invasion. Moscow's special military operation in Ukraine has ushered a new geopolitical reality in which the Kremlin and North Korea may become increasingly close. It is notable that Pyongyang has begun using its new phrase, tactical and strategic collaboration, to describe its relationship with Russia. Are there economic ties, if any? Last year, Russia and North Korea restarted train travel for the first time since railway journeys were cut during the COVID-19 pandemic. The train carried an unusually opulent cargo, 30 thoroughbred horses. Shortly after that, Russia resumed oil exports to North Korea, United Nations data shows, and the first such shipments reported since 2020. Russian officials have openly discussed working on political arrangements to employ 20 to 50,000 North Korean laborers, despite UN Security Council resolutions to ban such arrangements. So, Russian officials and leaders in occupied regions of Ukraine have also discussed the possibility of having North Korean workers help rebuild war-torn areas. Interesting. Wow. So it seems as if Russia and North Korea are going to become pretty good allies now.
Having North Korea as an ally is basically like having the leader of the KKK be your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wield some power, but it's not a good friend to have.
Not a great friend to have.
And nobody in the world likes them. So
not even their own people.
Is that news?
Not really. Not when you listen to the the people who have escaped. There's a specific term for individuals who have escaped countries like that, war-torn countries, and I can't think of it. Yeah, kind of, but no, it's I can't think right off the top of my head.
Asylum seekers?
There was a woman that was on Rogan's podcast as well. I can't remember her name, and I can't remember what they referred to, like a deterrent. No, goodness gracious, I can't remember exactly. But there are individuals who have escaped these kind of countries and these kind of leadership. I guess like how devastating these countries were, and entire families get slaughtered. Just for going against these leaders. If you talk out against them, your entire family is at risk. So to even think,
but free speech is so important.
It's essential, and that's why I'm so happy we're protected by the Constitution, right? And that's why it scares me again seeing countries like this start to band together, because what happens when their political stances start to rub off on each other, and then they all start to kind of become the same sort of evil that we're seeing over in North Korea right now.
Well, there's a movie. It's called Team America. America. Yeah. That's what happens. You start seeing that, and then all of a sudden we go to war with the entire world.
I'd say, if anything, it's like the visual, it's the politics behind their meeting. So like they get that snapshot of Putin and Kim Jong-un, meeting together. So it's like, you have the US and NATO and Ukraine, and then now you have Russia and North Korea and China,
Right.
And I've seen U.S. Kind of make sly threats to North Korea if they start sending weapons and aid to Russia, and it's like, who the heck are we to, tell them not to aid a ally? I guess at this point in a war, we're doing the exact same thing.
Kind of like, hi kettle, meet pot.
Yeah, so for anybody who was trying to understand what I was saying a little bit earlier, what they're called defectors who end up escaping the country. Go look up a woman named Yeanomi Park. She will explain to you exactly what happened to her after she escaped North Korea and how she got out of it and how she got refuge. She was on Joe Rogan, I will say, is where I learned most of her story, episode 1691. And I thought it was an incredible story. It's very heartbreaking. It is very tragic. Be ready to honestly, it was a tearjerker. Like it was very hard to listen to, just knowing the reality over there. Emotions. I am my emotional side.
Nothing wrong with it.
Oh no, not at all.
With it at all.
I can feel the pain that comes from these people. You know,
An empath.
Yeah. And it really is heartbreaking to hear what some of these people go through in North Korea, and we know they're going through right now. That's why I try to stay, and I try to.
China. Is there anything bad going on?
Oh, plenty going on bad over there too. That's why I continue to try to fight for freedom. Ultimately, I just want freedom for everybody. You know, we all deserve an opportunity at life, even if it is working a 9-to-5 job. You know what I mean? Even if it is like worst case scenario, you get to provide for your family and enjoy the little things. It's better than what's happening in these countries
Something that's
now.
so beautiful too that we get to sit here and have these conversations in this country. I mean, that's beautiful, and we really take it for granted. Because
the fact that we can literally make a show where we sit around and we talk mad crap about our government, our leaders, our elected officials.
Like, in a lot of countries, you can be put to death for this kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Again. Yeah, again, just go listen to any of these individuals who are defectors or escape these communist countries, and you'll hear you say bad things about their government, your own government. As a citizen in those countries, it's not going to play out well for you.
And then Jimmy disappeared, and we haven't seen him since.
No idea where he went. So, great stuff to touch up on there. So now we are coming up on the last topic, as long as you all have nothing else you would like to share with that previous one. Anything else? Cool. Now comes the last topic in the title of our episode tonight. BRICS. BRICS welcomes new members and push to reshuffle world order. This is getting scary. The BRICS bloc of developing nations agreed on Thursday to admit Saudi Arabia, Iran, Ethiopia, Egypt, Argentina, and the United Arab Emirates in a move aimed at accelerating its push to reshuffle world order it sees as outdated. In deciding in favor of an expansion the bloc's first 13 years, BRICS leaders left the door open to future enlargement as dozen more countries voiced interest in joining the group. They hope they can level the global playing field. The expansion adds economic left to BRICS, whose current members are, and why it says BRICS, China, the world's second largest economy, as well as Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa. So that's why it's called BRICS. It could also amplify its declared ambition to become a champion of the global south. But long-standing tensions could linger between members who want to forge the grouping into a counterweight to the West, notably China, Russia, and now Iran, and those that continue to nurture close ties to the United States and Europe. This membership expansion is historic. Chinese President Xi Jinping, the bloc's most stalwart, is that what that says? Stalwart proponent? Yeah, of enlargement said. It shows the determination of BRICS countries for unity and cooperation with the broader developing countries. Originally an acronym coined by Goldman Sachs chief economist Jim O'Neilly in 2001, the bloc was founded as an informal four-nation club in 2009 and added South Africa a year later in its previous expansion.
Only previous expansion.
Only previous expansion. The 6 new candidates will formally become members on January 1st of 2024. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said when he named the countries during a 3-day leaders summit he is hosting in Johannesburg. BRICS has embarked on a new chapter in its efforts to build a world that is fair and a world that is just, a world that is also inclusive and prosperous. We have consensus on the first phase of the expansion process, and other phases will follow. So friends and allies-led candidates. So the countries invited to join reflect individual BRICS members' desires to bring allies into the club. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva had vocally lobbied for neighbor Argentina's inclusion, while Egypt has close commercial ties with Russia and India. The entry of oil power, Saudi Arabia and UAE, highlights their drift away from the United States orbit and ambition to become global heavyweights in their own right. Russia and Iran have found common cause in their shared struggle against U.S.-led sanctions and diplomatic isolation, and their economic ties deepening in the wake of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. BRICS is not competing with anyone. Vladimir Putin, who is attending this summit remotely due to an international warrant for alleged war crimes, said on Thursday. That's funny. He can't even leave his freaking country. But it's also obvious that this process of the emerging of a new world order still has fierce opponents. Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi celebrated his country's BRICS invitation with a swipe at Washington, saying on Iranian television network Al Alam that the expansion shows the unilateral approach is on the way to decay. Beijing is close to Ethiopia, and country's inclusion also speaks to South Africa's desire to amplify Africa's voice in global affairs. So lofty ambitions, little results. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres attended Thursday's expansion announcement, reflecting the bloc's growing influence. He echoed BRICS' longstanding calls for reforms of the UN Security Council, International Monetary Fund, and World Bank. Today's global governance structures reflect yesterday's world, he said. For multilateral institutions to remain truly universal, they must reform to reflect today's powers and economic realities. So though home to 40% of the world's population and quarter of global gross domestic product, internal divisions have long hobbled BRICS' ambitions of becoming a major player on the world stage. It has long been criticized for failing to live up to its grand ambitions. Well, it's getting there. Even as BRICS leaders this week weighed expanding the group, a move every one of them publicly supported, divisions surfaced on how much and how quickly. So last-minute deliberations over entry criteria and which countries to invite to join extended late into Wednesday evening. Bloc heavyweight China has long called for an expansion of BRICS as it seeks to challenge Western dominance. Other BRICS members support fostering the creation of multipolar global order, but Brazil and India have both also been forging closer ties with the West. Brazil's Lula has rejected the idea that the bloc should seek to rival the United States and group of 7 wealthy economies. However, as he departed South Africa on Thursday, he saw no contradiction in bringing in Iran, a historical arch foe of Washington. It is advanced that if it advanced the cause of developing the world. We can't deny the geopolitical importance of Iran and other countries that will join BRICS. What matters is not the person who governs, but the importance of the country. This is not good. When you're bringing in some of the world's biggest oil exporters and some large economies, they're starting to live up to a potential overthrow of the world currency, the US dollar. I want to hear your all thoughts on this. Is it good? Is it bad? Can you blame them for doing what they're doing? And what do we do from here?
I say we sit back.
Sit back, let them watch it happen?
Well, I mean, let them tear themselves apart. You have a lot of countries that are in that organization that have a lot of
ambition.
Not ambition, feuds. Differing views of opinion, and they even talked about it in the article. You know, even in the talks of just expanding BRICS, there was already things that popped up that were well, how many do we expand? How
Yeah,
much do
yeah.
we expand? And then the other thing on it is one of your biggest players can't even leave the country because he's a war criminal.
That is kind of funny.
He couldn't even go to Johannesburg because as soon as he stepped foot there, he would have been arrested. That's some organization you guys are putting together over there. Now, not going to sit here and try to downplay the historical importance of having these very oil-rich company or countries now join.
Right. It hasn't been official yet. It's going to take till 2024.
But how long does Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates get along?
Good question.
How long does Saudi Arabia and Iran get along?
Yep.
How long does Saudi Arabia and China get along?
Great questions. Who knows, right? We won't actually see that.
And how long do we let it happen? Because right now, Saudi is under U.S. protection.
Right. That's a great question.
When we say, okay, Saudi, FAFO, dog. You know what FAFO is, right?
No.
F around and find out.
Oh, I didn't think about that for a minute.
FAFO, dog, we don't protect you no more.
Yep. Now that you joined BRICS.
Let's see what's you got going on.
Yeah.
By protecting them, you mean funding their war?
No, we have bases all over Saudi Arabia. I mean, we literally protect Saudi Arabia. They're under United States protection.
They are, aren't they?
So if we
also fund their war.
Yeah, I mean we do that, but we do that globally. So I don't feel like that's like all out of the ordinary. But yeah, no. All of a sudden we just say, hey, Saudi, one, we're not going to buy your oil anymore, and two, we don't protect you anymore. And now Venezuela, we like your oil and we want to protect you.
Yeah. Interesting.
And now then we prop Venezuela up as the largest, exporter of oil in the world. Like the writing, it's funny because like you can kind of see these things kind of progressing and how they're going to play out.
Right.
But obviously people are people and you don't know that for sure. But that's what would be my guess is that the United States pulls funding.
So what does it look like, if this thing comes to fruition and all these, you have a good bit of countries joining BRICS, what does that look like for the world?
I would say that it shows the fight against the U.S. being the world currency, the U.S. dollar, of course.
But BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, I don't think all 5 of those economies match the United States' economy.
I don't think they do. Well, maybe because China's the second biggest economy in the world, right?
Yeah, but it's such a large gap. I don't think it's. I think you can add them all together, and they don't come together to make what just the United States is, not even the EU.
Well, so we're at 25. Well, no, you're close to it. Okay, so we're at 25 trillion. The next closest is China at 18 trillion. But the next one on there, BRICS, India, is 3.5 trillion. So round that at there.
That's 21.
They might match our economy.
Just ours.
Yes.
What about the EU? When you add the EU into our equation,
because then you got the UK, France, Germany, Japan, all up there that are going to help build ours as well.
So what's the argument against by saying just let them?
I don't think there is an argument against them. I don't think that's why anybody's really trying to step in.
Well, they've said it was scary, so I was just curious.
I don't think it's scary. I think it's unknown.
It's a little nerve-wracking because at any point could, let's say, one of our allies is like, you know what? I like the way that BRICS is trying to set up their world currency, the world currency. I kind of want to go over that way.
Well, the best thing for the U.S. to do if they don't want that is to find ways to make our economy even stronger and make the value of the dollar increase.
Which would be to, in my opinion, bring back American manufacturing, become the leader in manufacturing, and then export.
Nope.
You don't think so?
No. Not manufacturing.
No.
I guess manufacturing in a sense.
Right.
Just open up American oil.
We could tap into our lines, but at the same
No,
time,
not even our lines. Like, actually go and get oil from Alaska.
What about just
America,
open up American
Canada.
energy?
Like, just unleash American energy on the world.
right?
And we literally eclipse Saudi, we eclipse Iran, we eclipse UAE, we eclipse Venezuela. Like, we're letting all these other countries do their trade and everything when really we have some of the largest oil reserves on the face of the planet.
What if we're doing that on purpose?
Oh, absolutely.
What if we're running everybody else out of oil? That way, when it comes down to it, the U.S. is like, well, now it's all ours, and we're the big superpower. And what are y'all gonna do? I don't know. What's the game plan there?
Or what if the game plan is to we've already announced the breakthrough in fusion energy, which means that we're probably 10 years behind. The public is probably about 10 years behind actually that what the breakthrough on fusion is.
Right.
So what if the plan is to just keep developing fusion, and then now we are the innovators of fusion in the world, fusion energy to the world. We have boats that don't ever need to refuel. We have planes that don't ever need to refuel. We have transportation that doesn't ever need to refuel. So then what do? We just unleash American fuel on the rest of the world. We have this untouchable energy source, and then we just flood the other markets with American oil and just bring everybody down.
Life is nothing but a chess game, gentlemen.
It's Monopoly, dog.
Well, should we
It's Monopoly.
start investing in alternate energy too? Nuclear, solar, wind, all those things.
I think nuclear energy should have been something we were focusing on for a long time now.
I think the only two real viable like alternative energies are nuclear and solar.
Yeah.
I think that we can develop technology that captures enough solar power energy that it can actually power some stuff and retain energy, and there's not a huge transfer or a loss in the transfer and stuff like that.
Right.
But no, it's fusion energy. That's the future.
Yeah.
Fusion. The other thing is hydrogen. Why haven't we been taking advantage of hydrogen? There's just
unlimited opportunities out there, dude.
Wait. H2. That's dihydrogen, right? Oxide. And then O. Dihydrogen oxide. That's
H2O.
there's a lot of water on this
There's
planet.
a lot of water out there.
But also too, I think it goes back to what you said, Nate, too. And also, I mean, energy and manufacturing, like we talked earlier about the China, Taiwan, and they make a lot of the chips, which we know the Biden administration passed the CHIPS Act so they can invest in American companies so we can start making chips here. So yeah, and even cars, we don't want to rely on all these foreign countries to make everything for us. So yeah, I think you guys are both right with we need to invest in American energy, clean energy, whatever that is, and also manufacturing, building things here. That way, because the perfect argument for that was the pandemic when they shut the world down.
Yeah.
And then you had all those supply chain issues.
You had ships just sitting out in the middle of the sea, and we couldn't even get them in.
And stuff here that was made in America, and manufacturing plants that made stuff in America, they didn't rely on overseas materials and
Supply
labor.
chains, yeah.
They didn't rely on that. So, they didn't skip a beat. I know the pandemic probably held them back with all the restrictions, and that's a whole different discussion. But yeah, like you guys said, I think you're both right. We need to invest in American manufacturing, American energy. Let's not rely on these other countries for these things, and we need to make the dollar stronger. That's the only thing you can do to make the world want to use the dollar as the world currency.
Right.
Well, the other thing is to just strengthen our relationship and partnership with the continent of Africa. There are so many precious metals. There's so much natural resources that come from the continent of Africa. If we just intensified our relationship with them and really, really, really locked arms with them and took off running, that would be devastating. That would be a devastating blow to the BRICS nation.
Maybe I'm just
Yes.
really simple-minded, but what if we started getting along with these countries instead of
Funding their wars?
waging war on them, and we traded and bartered with them?
That's not simple-minded, Stu. That is beyond human comprehension because we take too much pride in our own countries. We're animals. Yeah, we want to. It's just it'll never work like that because humans are too small-minded, in my opinion. We don't understand. Like, do you understand?
Unless this is the only way I disagree with you, and you're gonna laugh at me, but this is the truth.
Aliens.
No, legit. This is true though, because if aliens actually started to show themselves as a threat, then maybe humanity would pull
not
together.
even as a threat. Maybe aliens just come down and say, "Hey, you idiots! There's a galactic federation, and we've been watching you, and you guys are messing up.
Yeah.
So like, get your stuff together so that you can join the Galactic Federation." And so your species doesn't go extinct.
Yeah.
Like we've been watching you. You're a baby species. We get it. But like get your stuff together.
Could you imagine though? Copperhead threw a couple alien emojis in there.
Yeah, Copperhead.
Could you imagine though, seriously, like what humans could be capable of if we all banded together and actually started innovating towards intergalactic space travel, the ability to jump from planet to planet and find a way to be able to live on other planets and to conquer those areas, right? Like, could you imagine, or not necessarily conquer, let me just say this.
Maybe what if it's just be a part of it?
There's the human mind coming out of Nate. There it
Prime
is.
example of human nature. We're going to go there and we're going to FSU and we're going to conquer that bad boy.
Okay, let's not
Like
say
Mars?
conquer,
Like,
but
let's nuke Mars. Let's just do it.
let's just do it. But like, if you could
nuke dice
actually
caps. Let's get
find
some
a
water there.
way to inhibit the land and actually allow people to survive within that region, right? Like if we could find
Like
ways
terraform it?
if we could find ways basically
Like
to
bubble
get
cities.
Yeah, I mean anything like that, right? If we could find a way, like humans, the capability of humans is so ridiculously incredible if we would just band together and stop being so small-minded. Seriously, if we could pull apart the fact that we're a certain nationality or religion or ethnicity or whatever, and just pull together that we are a human being, because let's be honest, we're all as fragile as the next person, right? A bullet will kill any of us, and it's just as simple as that. I don't know, man. I could go on for days about that.
Yeah, not me. You might as well call
Colossus.
shield myself.
But bringing it full circle, BRICS. So just kind of let it play out, see where it goes. We'll continue to watch it, monitor it, kind of deal.
Well, the thing is it really such a bad thing to have another union of countries? And I mean, everybody thought it was like, oh my God, it's the downfall of America because the European nations are coming together and forming the European Union.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's bad. I just if they started to see the U.S. as the enemy, then I feel like the U.S. would kind of become
already.
Well, who says they don't already? But
Most
then
of the
I feel
countries
like
they
we would
do.
become like clearly people don't really like North Korea, except for now Russia apparently, who's starting to become kind of friends
That's
with
because
them.
Russia just needs a friend.
Exactly.
Like, these guys picked on us, we retaliated, and now they're picking on us more.
And I can't leave my country.
And then Tim was over here. He's like, "Be your friend." He's
Yeah.
like, please.
Like what if America becomes the North Korea, right? And that's kind of where I'm getting my
That's a
concerns
scary
at.
proposition for the rest of the world.
Well,
You think about our military and our military might, and if we became the North Korea of the world,
interesting thoughts, isn't it?
I'm almost convinced at this point that we could wage war on the entire world. We don't have to have the manpower. We have the drone power.
Right. We have the intelligence. We have a lot of good things.
We have the drones. Are you kidding me? If we just mass produce drones,
be an interesting thought.
Who would be able to get close to us?
Yeah. It would definitely be interesting to see what would happen there. But again, we'll let BRICS play out. We'll see what happens.
I'm trying to go off the rails here.
I mean, I see what you're saying though, because our military might is absolutely ridiculous compared to the rest of the world.
I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in things.
I like it. Look at that smile.
So, they create BRICS. We have the U.S. dollar. So what happens when all this Bitcoin and cryptocurrency takes off even more than what it is? Does that change things?
I don't know that it takes off more than it is.
Yeah, I don't know if it does either. I think crypto, it's not backed by anything. It has, I mean, then again, neither it's neither is the US dollar right now, but
I mean, we thought it was
fractional
okay.
banking being
But no, I mean,
that's a good question actually though.
I just don't know that crypto takes off even more so than what it is going already. And if it does, does it take off like a ton? Or does it just take off a little bit, like up like what gold and silver and stuff like that?
Right.
So I don't know. The thing about crypto is what happens when the power turns off?
Yeah, all that currency's gone.
All that.
I mean, it's just gone.
That you thought had value has no.
I mean, even if
But then again, so do our bank accounts. Hey,
True.
You don't actually have money.
Well, I mean, they have paper statements for that.
Hey, you don't actually have money.
Could you have paper statements for Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Hey, you don't actually have money. You got
that's
digits
a good question,
on a computer.
Actually. But yeah, so
the bank doesn't have to provide the gold to back that currency up. So.
I guess we'll just continue to monitor it, see what happens. Right.
That's all we can do.
That's all we can do, and we'll just keep on top of it.
Luckily, kind of like the gift and the curse of being the Fact Is podcast.
Yeah, right.
The gift is that we are the Fact Is podcast. You're gonna like, comment, share, and follow, subscribe to the Fact Is. That's like the awesome part. The worst part is that we do our research, we find out about all this crap that's going on in the world,
and it sucks.
And it sucks,
but it's awesome.
But we're the Fact Is.
I love it. So there we have it. We will keep up with BRICS. We will continue to evaluate and watch that, and continue to give you all the news that we find out firsthand. Any other closing thoughts, gentlemen, for this episode?
I just want to give Jamie a huge shout out. He really does a lot of work behind the scenes for the Fact Is podcast.
Yes, he does.
And he pours his time, soul, everything into it, and really without him we wouldn't have the quality show that we have. So
I agree with that.
I got to give you a shout outs to Jamie. So yeah, because
thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome, buddy.
No, I do 100% agree with that. Stu has poured a lot of his energy and time into this. And obviously we wouldn't be where we are today without both of you. So I started this project a long time ago. Of course, had a different co-host back then. Started it in the basement of my mother and father's home, expanded out to mine, eventually came out to a new location, a whole brand new studio. And we have the equipment, the people here today that are making this work. So to both of you, thank you. I love this.
When you first started the podcast and I first started paying attention to it, your camera was so grainy and you wore those headphones, yes. Right? So the way that your seat was behind your headphones, it looked like you had long hair that you had pushed back. I was like, who is this Nafe Moses guy looking out here like a young JC or something?
It's definitely come a long way.
I bet you wear sandals with
socks on.
No, not even. Talk about those ones that strap over the top.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
That's who I thought you were, Nave. long hair, strap sandals.
Those are
Maybe
dad
socks.
sandals.
Maybe socks.
Maybe so.
Maybe socks.
Oh man, so it's been a beautiful journey, and I thank both of you. But as we are approaching the end of this episode, let me go ahead and start closing us out here, gentlemen, and then we will get closing remarks.
Stu.
I have one thing, or a couple
Please.
things to say. My usual spiel.
Love a spiel.
To everybody out there, thank you for watching or listening.
Comment, share, following, subscribing. Would you
Yeah.
say?
Follow us and listen to us, but also listen to people that you don't agree with. Listen to people that you do agree with. Try to see different points of view. Even if you don't agree with them, try to see where they're coming from. Maybe find some common ground. Make a friend. Here at the fact is, we want to bridge the divide. We want to build bridges, not burn them down. And then you should get involved with your local communities, even if something simple.
And your local government.
Yeah, local governments too. But yeah, get involved with your local communities and see what they're doing. Be nice to people. Be nice to your neighbor. Like I said, find a common ground and let's try to bridge the divide in this country, because we do believe that we have more in common than we don't, and I think it's time we start living that.
I agree.
Thank you, Stuart. Love that. So to end this episode, I just want to say please follow us on all of our socials, like Ryan said earlier: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Royal Rumble.
The Royal Rumble.
Twitch, all sorts, TikTok, all sorts of websites. So please make sure, or social media. So please make sure you all follow us on that. Please remember, as Stuart just said, to share this with people you love, but also share those with those that you disagree with, because ultimately we all do have more in common than what we don't. That is 100% a fact, and I cannot reiterate that enough.
That's our slogan.
Absolutely. Thank you to all military personnel, active duty and retired, law enforcement, fire and rescue, doctors, nurses, paramedics, hospital staff, farmers. Thank you for your food. Those in American manufacturing. Love that we're bringing back American manufacturing. Those in social work, taking care of the current U.S. citizens and the big mental health crisis that we have going on around here. Thank you, social workers. You all do a lot. And last but not least, ethical congressional representatives, if they exist. Oh! Nice.
It's like we're co-hosts of a podcast
or
together.
Something.
Hey, also, by the way, if you guys I don't know if you've seen this or if you've picked up on this, but he stops. He's been reading this list off for a couple months now?
Yep.
Every time he stops and he says, "Man, I love food." Come on, bro.
I love food, man.
He's like,
one of those things you just, it's one of those small things that you look forward to every day. You know what? I get to have my meal right now, and that's incredible.
What'd you have for today?
I had steak, shrimp, corn, green beans, and then going over my whole list, I had a protein shake, and then I did end up having more chicken, rice, veggies.
What is your caloric intake? Good God.
Probably about 2,000, close to it.
What are you eating? Portions this big? I'm just gonna eat a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna have.
I just enjoy my food, man. What do you want from me?
Dude, that's a lot. I had some shrimp Alfredo. Homemade shrimp Alfredo.
Oh my
I
gosh.
had some steak, green beans, and potatoes.
Stu, your turn. Need to hear what you ate today.
No. Everybody,
He said no.
hold your politicians accountable, locally, state, federally. Figure out what they're doing. Do your own research. If you hear information, fact check it, look into it. Don't take anybody's word for it. Don't take our word for it. Go do your own research. Yeah, hold your government accountable.
There it is. So thank you everyone so much for coming to the Fact Is podcast. We will see you all next week for episode 138. We were your hosts, Nath Moses.
And I'm Ryan Mays.
And
Stu Mowbray.
Stubby Mo. I love
Stubry.
it. Stubry. Thank you all so much. We will see you all next week, 8 p.m. Have a good night.
Peace.